Oh, hey guys, it's Stanley here. One of my favorite shows growing up was the Muppet Babies cartoon. I also enjoyed The Muppet Show, and the movie that launched them onto the big screen, The Muppet Movie, filmed some scenes not too far away from here. So, let's go check out some Muppet Movie locations in Monterey County. All of the scenes filmed in Monterey County take place during the song Moving Right Along, which is a classic and catchy song. Now some scenes were filmed on private land, so we'll see how far we get with this. The first scene you see filmed in Monterey County is a scene of Fozzie and Kermit driving down South Main Street, which turns into Highway 68. This is my recreation of that shot with a camera placed on the back seat of my car. And across the street is still a sign that shows where the gas lines are. And here's a view from the Muppets' perspective, or the person who was driving that car. More on that later. Do you see that barn back there? With that really steep slope on it? You can see that behind Fozzie and Kermit in the movie. Now, although you see Fozzie and Kermit drive past this road, they actually filmed the next scene on Foster Road. Look how tore up this road is. I don't think it was like this when Fozzie and Kermit came down here in their Studebaker.
Hey Fozzie, look up ahead.
What is that?
Maybe we should give him a ride.
I don't know, he's pretty big.
As you can see in the background, there's that sloping barn again that we saw earlier. And as they're driving down Foster Road, they run into none other than Big Bird.
Maybe we should give him a ride.
I don't know, he's pretty big. Hey there, one of them?
Oh, no thanks. I'm on my way to New York City to try to break into public television.
Good luck.
We can use the mountain range in the background to pinpoint where Big Bird was standing. Notice this slope right here in the mountain, and also check out this crease in the mountain. You can see those prominently behind Big Bird. Also behind Big Bird, you can see the cars on Highway 68. So Big Bird tells them that he's on his way to break into public television. So basically, what he's saying is, he's on his way to Sesame Street. There's 3 things I always wanted to do. 1, dig a hole to China. 2, become a Jedi. And 3, figure out how to get to Sesame Street. And now I know. Foster Road. We could also use this sign to pinpoint where Big Bird was when he was walking down the road. Now you might be thinking, Stanley, behind that sign in the distance is a house, and there's no house here. Maybe you're on the wrong road. Well, check this out. If we go on Google Maps and go back to 2011, we can see in the background that at one time there was a house there. Let's zoom in a little bit closer. But somewhere between 2011 and 2019, the house was demolished, and it's gone. So that's why there is no house here now. One structure that has survived since the filming is that barn way out there. It's so cool to think that Jim Henson, Frank Oz, and Carol Spinney were all on this street. I found a picture of Carol Spinney during the filming of this movie with half of the Big Bird costume off. They're on Foster Road. I'm not sure who this guy is. He's probably somebody really important. And check it out, way off in the background, there's that barn again. I also have a picture of Frank Oz and Jim Henson inside the Studebaker. And notice in the center, that's Brian Henson, Jim Henson's son, controlling Fozzie's right arm. I also found this quote from Brian Henson. He says, "When Fozzie and Kermit are driving the car, they had very little space between Frank and Jim. So Frank asked me to do Fozzie's right hand, steering the wheel because I was really thin and I could fit in there without crowding them. I've noticed that when you watch the movie, you can see a little bit of blonde hair sticking up in the middle of the frame, and that would be me." But the puppeteers weren't the ones actually driving the car. The filmmakers modified a 1951 Studebaker and put a steering wheel and a monitor in the trunk, where a little person would actually drive and steer the car. In the bullet nose of the car, they added a camera, so the person in the trunk could see exactly where they were going. And that's how you make Muppets drive a car. Fozzie's Studebaker is currently on display at the Studebaker National Museum in South Bend, Indiana. So if you're in the area, definitely check that out. I feel very at home in this location. I was born in an agricultural town very similar to this, not too far from here. And I rose out of the ground like a Cabbage Patch Kid. That explains that Xavier Roberts signature on my backside. Anyways, back to the Muppets. So after Kermit, Fozzie, and Big Bird part ways, another scene in the montage is filmed at the intersection of Foster Road and Davis. So let's go down there. So that's the intersection where Fozzie and Kermit made a big U-turn. If we go up in the air, we can see that not a whole lot has actually changed. That little shack is now gone, but most of the power poles are still in the same spot. And check out this concrete square right here. That little concrete square was there in the 1970s. As you can see, its top cover has worn away. But if we go on Google Maps, we can see that it was still there around 2008. What its purpose was, I have no idea. Maybe something to do with irrigation? A lot of this farmland is actually for organic farming. And I always thought organic was a 1980s or 1990s invention. But they actually talk about eating organic in the Muppet movie.
Get your fresh organic popcorn, only $1. Yeah, we're taking this old church and turning it into a coffee house.
Yeah, with real good music and organic refreshments.
The next scene in the montage is only about a mile away. This is the road with the grove of trees that Fozzie and Kermit drive through. I believe these trees are walnut trees. Let's see if we can get a similar shot without any farmers getting mad at me. I'm so glad that this small little grove of trees is still here.
Moving right along.
The rest of the Moving Right Along montage takes place on private land. It's on private property. Specifically, it's Rancho San Carlos Road, which is part of the Santa Lucia Preserve. The Santa Lucia Preserve is a gated housing community. It's so secure that not even Google Maps has been down here. To get inside, you have to get past security at the gatehouse, then get buzzed in through the locked gate. And I read online that if you're not a guest of somebody who lives there, you're not getting in. And I don't know anybody who lives there. The Santa Lucia Preserve is over 20,000 acres of pristine land for just under 300 elite families, and over 100 miles of trails for those select few. Boy, That doesn't seem very equitable, but that's none of my business. It looks like if we're gonna get in there, I'm gonna have to get rich fast. It's not easy being green, but I'm not rich. Maybe we can try the direct approach. I'll send them an email and tell them about my project, and maybe they'll let me in. Okay, I just got an email back from the Preserve, and they said they would love to help me with this project. That's so cool. I will need to be accompanied by somebody who works at the Preserve, but I'm totally fine with that. This was a lot easier than I thought.
2 weeks later.
Okay, it's been 2 weeks. I got another email from them. They just want to check out my YouTube channel to make sure it's going to be a good fit, but it looks like everything's going to work out. I also found most of the locations using Google's 3D maps, so this should be really easy once we get in.
2 weeks later.
Well guys, I just got an email from the Preserve. They're not gonna let me on property after all. They must have seen my video on Pete's Dragon where I went off trail. I knew that video was gonna come back to haunt me. Even though they won't let me on property, they did email me some photos of what some of the locations look like currently. They didn't have to do that, so Santa Lucia Preserve, thank you. Okay, we're gonna have to do this Google 3D map style. The first location I found is a big wide landscape shot. This is where Fozzie and Kermit are driving down the road. You can see their car way off in the distance. I noticed this really pointy section in the mountain range. You can also see the road that they drive on right here, and how it curves and goes way off in the distance. This is also the same road that you see them drive down in this scene looking out the front window. The next location that I found is this ridge right here. Notice this slope in the mountain. Now it's a little bit harder to see in this 3D model, but there's the slope in the mountain, and this is the really picturesque ridge that they drive down. I also found an ad for the Santa Lucia Preserve, and they show somebody driving on that same ridge in modern times. The next location I found is farther down Rancho San Carlos Road. To really pinpoint where they were at, we need to rewind. Check out this kind of white line in the grass that makes a bit of a triangle. That triangle is still there. You can see it in the Google 3D maps. And off to the right are some white cliffs, and these are the only white cliffs that I can find on Rancho San Carlos Road, and they line up perfectly on Google Maps. This grove of mossy trees I couldn't find on Google Maps. You really need to be boots on the ground. You can't get that much detail on Google Maps. But the Santa Lucia Preserve sent me a picture of the trees in modern times. Now it's not quite the same angle. I don't know if this is behind or in front of where the camera was, but here's what they look like now. The last scene filmed on Rancho San Carlos Road is when they drive past the Canadian Mountie, and I also cannot find this on Google Maps. You really need to be there in real life. But thankfully, the Preserve told me that this was filmed near the Trappers Loop Trail, and the Trappers Loop Trail is right around here. So the bridge that you see Fozzie and Kermit drive over must be going over the San Jose Creek. So it was filmed somewheres right here. Thanks for joining me on this Muppet movie adventure, looking at the scenes that took place in Monterey County. It's a bummer that the second half of the video had to be done virtually, but hey, it is what it is. You don't always get what you want, and who knows, maybe someday I'll get in to the Santa Lucia Preserve. Now you might be thinking, Stanley, what about the big fork in the road? What about that scene? That's also in the Moving Right Along montage. But that scene was not filmed in Monterey County. That was filmed in Los Angeles County, so the next time I go to LA, we'll go check out that location, and maybe some others. So please hit subscribe, hit that bell, and I'll see you next time. Bye!